My name is Claire Monroe. I'm 33 years old, and after 12 years away, I came home. Not for forgiveness, not for family, just for one dinner. But I should have known nothing in this house is ever just. The table was flawless. Candles lit, wine poured. My mother Margaret raised her glass with a smile I hadn't seen in years. To Claire she said sweetly, "May she finally bring us peace." My father, Charles, didn't look at me. He never did. I stared into my glass. Something was wrong. Too red. Too thick. Then Margaret whispered like a blade sliding in. She was never a daughter. Charles, just a problem we delayed solving. Have you ever felt unwanted? Not by strangers, but by your own blood. Ever looked into your mother's eyes and felt nothing? If you've been pushed away, cast out, or quietly erased, this story is for you. You're not crazy, you're not weak, and you're not alone. Keep listening. The scent of roses hit first. Not the fresh kind, too perfect, too sharp, like everything my mother touches. She wore cream silk and pearls, hair pulled back, not a strand out of place. Her perfume, heavy, expensive, wrapped around me like a trap. She stepped forward, arms out, but her touch was cold. A performance, a photo op without the camera. "Claire," she said, "you've hardened." She pulled back, scanning me like a broken item on a shelf. Her eyes didn't soften. They calculated. "There's something wild about you now," she said, almost curious, then quieter. "Not like us, not a hug, not a welcome, just an evaluation. Have you ever returned somewhere hoping maybe, just maybe it's changed, only to realize it never did, and maybe it never will? If you've ever walked into a room and felt like a stranger in your own skin, this story is still yours, still unfolding. Stay close." Dinner was served like a ceremony. White gloves, silver trays, aged beef, crystal wine, luxury that made your stomach turn. I sat at one end, alone. They took their usual places like no time had passed, like I had never left. My father, Charles, spoke of business. A new Pentagon contract, billions in weapons. He was proud. He always is when it's about money. Then came Ethan. Not in person, of course, but in every sentence. Ethan just raised another 80 million. Ethan's team was featured in Forbes. Ethan bought the house next to Oprah's. The room sparkled when his name was said. But me, I was just there, a shadow at the table. Charles finally turned. "And you, Claire?" he asked. "Still doing admin work?" I smiled. "It's fulfilling," I lied. "Have you ever been in a room where your voice didn't matter, where your success, your survival meant less than someone's tennis trophy? If that feels familiar, then you'll understand what comes next. You've lived in someone else's shadow too. Let's keep going." The wine bottle was already open. 2014 vintage, Opus 1, a bottle that cost more than my first car. Margaret poured it carefully, slow, precise. The red liquid swirled like blood under candlelight. She handed me a glass. "Drink, dear," she said, her smile calm, almost kind, "to your return." Something inside me paused, a small, sharp voice, trained to notice the wrong details. The wine was warm, too warm, metallic, bitter at the back of my throat. I'd been taught this before, this taste, a signature blend, slow acting, quiet, lethal. I looked across the table. They were smiling, still talking, like nothing had happened. Have you ever realized someone wanted you gone, not metaphorically, literally? Have you ever tasted betrayal and swallowed it anyway, just to keep the peace? If you've ever sat at a table where love was a lie, you know this feeling. And trust me, it's just beginning. The chandelier above me blurred. Light broke into sharp pieces. The room spun slowly, then, all at once. Heat crawled up my spine. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. Pulse racing, vision narrowing, breath shallow tight. I reached for the table, missed, my glass tipped. The wine, deep red, spilled across the white cloth. Like blood on snow. I tried to speak, but my mouth didn't move. Everything around me, voices, faces, slipped underwater. Then I heard her. Clearer than anything, Margaret's voice, flat, cold, surgical. She was never a daughter, Charles, just a liability. He said nothing, just silence. But I knew that silence, it meant yes. Have you ever watched someone decide your fate? While pretending nothing was wrong, that was the moment I stopped being their child and became their problem. This was never a family dinner. It was a final transaction, and I was the cost. Stay. You need to hear what happened next. I was 14, hands covered in grease, arms burnt from hours of soldering. But I'd done it. First place state science fair. An autonomous robotic arm, built from scrap, coded from scratch. It moved with perfect precision. I came home holding the trophy, my chest full, my smile naive. Margaret was arranging lilies in the living room. I held up the award. She looked at it, then at me. Her lips tightened. Claire, a Monroe girl, doesn't smell like oil. You look unkempt. That night, there was a dinner at the country club. Not for me, for Ethan. He'd made the varsity tennis team. My trophy was left on a bottom shelf, behind encyclopedias. Within a week, it gathered dust. Have you ever achieved something you thought mattered, only to realize it never would to them? That night, I learned my victories were mine to hide, because in this family, only one star was allowed to shine, and it wasn't me. I was 15. The night smelled of rain and rubber, headlights, screeching tires, then impact. Ethan D. was driving, his brand new BMW. He was drunk. The other car spun out. Someone got hurt. I sat in the passenger seat frozen, heart pounding, not from fear, from knowing what came next. Charles arrived before the police, not to check on the victim, not to ask if we were okay. He grabbed my arm tight. "You'll say you were driving," he said. "You're a minor. He can't afford this on his record." It wasn't a question. It was an order. I looked him in the eye. "No," I said, "just that." He stared, then said something I'll never forget. "Your stubbornness will ruin this family. Have you ever been punished for telling the truth, for refusing to carry someone else's lie?" That night, I wasn't just a daughter anymore. I became an enemy. And enemies don't get forgiven. I was 16. Ethan was failing AP English. He panicked. So he stole an essay from my laptop, my words, my work. He turned it in as his own. But the teacher knew my writing. She asked questions. Instead of confessing, he said I hacked him, that I submitted it to frame him out of jealousy. And they believed him. Margaret stormed into my room, furious, shaking. "You're a viper in this house," she screamed, consumed by envy. Then she opened my drawer, pulled out my birth certificate, and tore it in half. "I wish you had never been born." The paper floated down like dead leaves. Charles stood in the doorway, watching. When she finished, he said one thing. "Go. Before you do any more damage, have you ever been erased by the people who made you, not just rejected, but denied?" That night, I packed a bag. No hugs, no goodbye, only silence and the sound of torn paper. The house was dark, no lights, no voices. Just the sound of my footsteps on cold marble floors. I reached the front door, a duffel bag on my shoulder. No plan, no money, just one thought, get out. Then I felt a hand on my arm, soft, wrinkled, Ms. Dorothy. She didn't speak at first, just looked at me with eyes full of pain. She pressed something into my hand, a small roll of bills, then a sandwich wrapped in napkin. "Go, little one," she whispered. "Make a real life. This place, it doesn't deserve you." I wanted to cry, but I didn't. Her hand was the last warmth I felt that night, and the only reason I believed I was real. Have you ever had one person keep you from disappearing completely? If you've ever been saved by a small act of love, you understand. Sometimes that's all it takes to stay alive. Los Angeles didn't welcome me. It swallowed me. The first night, I slept on a bench in MacArthur Park. Shoes wet, stomach empty. No one looked twice. I wandered for days. Blisters on my heels, moldy bread in my pocket, silence in my throat. I checked into a motel once, paid in cash. The room smelled like damp carpet and old cigarettes, but it had a door I could lock. I took every job no one wanted. Dishes, toilets, trash. People didn't see me, and I stopped trying to be seen. Then one day, kneeling on a studio bathroom floor, hands raw from scrubbing, I looked up. A TV was playing in the lobby, and there she was. Margaret Monroe, glowing in diamonds, smiling at a charity gala. She had given $2 million to help the poor, while I was wondering if green mold meant the bread was still safe. Have you ever felt erased, not just left behind, but completely rewritten? That moment broke something in me. And maybe that was necessary. It was winter. Rain came sideways. I curled beneath a closed storefront knees to my chest soaked through. My fingers were numb. My lips cracked. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. Not properly. Not safely. For the first time, I thought about giving up. Not dramatically, just quietly. Fading. Then he appeared. From the storm. An older man. Broad shoulders. Military posture. He didn't ask questions. Didn't offer pity. He just handed me an umbrella and a hot styrofoam cup of soup. "You look like a fighter," he said. "Just haven't found your war yet." He walked away. No name, no lecture, just that sentence. It stayed with me. More than food, more than warmth. Have you ever been seen by a stranger more clearly than by your own family? Sometimes it only takes one sentence to jolt you back to life. That night, I didn't give up. The next morning, I bought a bus ticket. And I chose my war. The recruitment office smelled like bleach and paper. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I walked in soaked, hungry, and 30 pounds underweight. But my eyes were steady. "I want structure," I said. "I want out." The man behind the desk didn't flinch. He handed me a form and a pen that barely worked. Boot camp was hell, but it was a clean kind of pain. Rules, orders, sweat that meant something. They shaved my hair, yelled until I broke. Then built me back muscle by muscle day by day. Discipline became my survival. Endurance my language. When others cried, I stayed silent, because silence was all I'd ever known. Have you ever needed pain just to feel real again? The army didn't heal me, but it gave me shape, a uniform, a rank, and for the first time, purpose. But this was only the beginning, because pain alone wasn't enough. I didn't just want to survive anymore. I wanted to become untouchable. They called it the farm, hidden deep in Virginia. No signs, no welcome, just a gate and the end of who you were. It was the CIA's training ground. Only a few made it in. Fewer made it out. They stripped us down not just clothes, but name, history, weakness. Then they started rebuilding. You learned to lie with a steady pulse, to kill with a pen, to disappear in daylight, to feel nothing when necessary. Sleep was rare, food earned, pain was routine, physical, mental, emotional. They called it resilience. I called it familiar. When they screamed at us, I didn't hear them. I heard Margaret's voice telling me I was a viper. Each drill I saw Ethan's face. Each insult I replayed Charles's silence. Have you ever turned your pain into the thing that keeps you alive? I didn't just pass, I excelled. Because I'd been training my whole life, they just gave it a name. I left the farm with a new name, a new ID, a locked past. I became a ghost not because I wanted to disappear, but because I had to. They sent me to cities no one talked about, wars no one admitted, people no one claimed. I blended in, listened more than I spoke, trusted no one, not even myself sometimes. Languages came easy, so did reading a room. The flick of an eye, the shift in breath, every detail mattered. But under all the training, beneath the mission reports, one truth never left me. I didn't do this for my country. Not really. I did it to survive, to build a fortress where their voices couldn't reach. Have you ever created a new self just to bury the old one? The CIA made me lethal, but yeah, my family made me ready. And one day, without knowing, they gave me something else. A reason to come back. It came as an email. Plain, cold, subject line family dinner, Friday at 7 p.m. No apology, no explanation, just a time and address and a smiley face from Margaret. 12 years. No contact, not a single call, and now this, I read it 5 times. I almost deleted it. But something stopped me. Not curiosity, not hope. It was instinct, the kind you don't ignore. I booked a flight. Packed light, 1 bag, no weapons, just training and suspicion. The drive through Atherton felt unreal. Mansions behind gates. Lawns trimmed like military cuts. Everything still perfect. Too perfect. Have you ever returned to a place you swore you'd never see again? I told myself I was just visiting, just one night. But part of me knew this was more than dinner. It was a setup, and something dark was waiting at that table. Cold air. Damp stone. Not the dining room, not even the house. My body ached not from injury, but from the drug still in my veins. I was lying on the floor. A cellar. walls lined with dusty wine bottles, and silence. My training kicked in. Assess, orient, decide, act. No visible wounds, no weapons, no phone. They had taken everything except one thing, my mind. Then I saw it. On a crate beside me, a butterfly-shaped hair clip, mine. They had removed it while moving me, a mistake. A detail they missed, and that mistake would cost them. Have you ever been discarded so completely they didn't even check if you were still breathing? That was their error. They thought I was a memory, an inconvenience, but they forgot what they raised. They didn't bury me, they woke me. My fingers were still slow, but they worked. I reached for the hair clip, bent it, twisted it. Metal gave way just enough. Lockpicking was day 2 at the farm. They taught us with paper clips, gum wrappers, even splinters of wire. This was easier. I moved to the door. Rusty, old, servant access maybe? It clicked open after 3 tries. The hallway was narrow, no cameras, no guards, just quiet. They thought I wouldn't wake up. I slipped through the side gate past rose bushes and marble statues into the pre-dawn dark. No phone, no cash. But I had something better: clarity. They wanted me erased, made it clean. No mess, no body, just a vanishing act. Have you ever seen your life from the outside and realized they'd planned your ending without telling you? They thought I was gone, forgotten, but I was just getting started. I found a gas station on the edge of town, bought a burner phone with the cash tucked deep in my boot lining. Old habit. Never broken. I stepped into the back alley, hands still shaking, not from fear, from rage held too long. I dialed a number I swore I'd never use. A direct line, encrypted, untraceable. Only one man would answer. It rang once. Monroe, he said. Calm, precise. Sam Harlow, my former handler, my only real ally. Drugged, I said. Detained. Attempted termination. Suspects, my family. He didn't flinch. Didn't question it, just a pause. Then understood. Sanctuary protocol is active, he said. Lay low. I'll handle the back end. Then softer, barely a whisper. You're not alone. Have you ever heard just 4 words and felt your knees go weak? I had no weapons, no files, but I had something better, backup, and a reason to strike. Back at a motel off Highway 101, I logged into a secure CIA relay. Old credentials, still active barely. I needed one thing, my alibi. The Panama mission. That week, that operation. It would prove I wasn't even in the country. I entered the codes, waited. Nothing. Access denied, data not found. I tried again. Different channel, different clearance, no match. My entire file gone, every movement, every check-in erased like I was never there. My breath caught. This wasn't just deletion, it was intentional. The burner phone buzzed. Sam. His voice was lower than before. This didn't come from inside Langley, he said. It was routed through Vance defense servers, then silence. And finally, this is bigger than we thought, Claire. This is now a matter of national security. Have you ever felt your past collapse in real time? They weren't just cutting me off, they were rewriting me, and now I wasn't just a threat to their family. I was a threat to their empire. I stared at the motel ceiling, water stains, flickering light, my heart beat steady, too steady. Not from calm, from something colder. They hadn't just tried to kill me, they went deeper. They reached into the CIA, into a place I thought was untouchable. They scrubbed my name, my service, my record like I never existed. And for what? A contract, a signature, a cleaner family image. I thought of Charles signing papers with the same hand that once held mine, of Margaret pulling on white gloves to clean up what they called a mess. Me. Have you ever realized they weren't ashamed of what they did, only that it wasn't clean enough? That was the moment my mission changed. Not survival, not escape, retribution. They made me a weapon. Now they would learn some weapons. Remember who built them. I needed a weapon that didn't bleed, one that fought in silence. Her name was Rachel Kim, top-tier litigator, known for destroying corporate giants with a voice barely louder than a whisper. She didn't blink when I told her the story, didn't pity me. She leaned back, took a breath, then said, "We're not suing for pain. That's weak. That's what they'd expect." She opened her laptop. Type fast, precise. We go after fraud, conspiracy to commit murder. Documented harm, her eyes locked onto mine. No softness, only fire. Your family made you disappear to protect an arms deal. We don't fight that with feelings. We fight with proof. Have you ever sat across from someone who didn't question your story, just sharpened it? Rachel didn't care that I was broken. She only cared that I had evidence, and with her, I would find more. 48 hours later, Rachel's team cracked the first layer. The Vance family trust. Sealed, amended, sanitized. The original document listed me, Claire Monroe, as a 1/3 beneficiary, equal to Ethan. Written in black ink, signed. But 6 months ago, an amendment was filed. My name gone. My share quietly reassigned to him. Rachel slid the file across her desk. Timing matters, she said. 3 weeks after this, Vance's defense landed a $5 billion deal. She tapped a clause. It read like boilerplate. But it was everything. No pending familial disputes, no legal threats, no liabilities. They didn't disown you, Rachel said. They liquidated you. Have you ever seen your worth measured not in love, but in risk? They didn't cut ties. They cut losses. And I was the line item they erased to close the deal. We drove 2 hours north. Rachel's contact sent coordinates. A rural road, empty, quiet, too quiet. My rental car was still there, crashed into a tree angled just right like a photo set. I met Rex Donovan at the edge of the woods. Former NTSB, now a private consultant, gruff voice, steady hands. He circled the car, didn't say much, just looked, listened. Then he grunted, airbags deployed pre-impact. He pointed to the data port. They triggered it remotely. He opened a small vial. Inside blood. This isn't yours. He'd run the DNA. It belonged to a John Doe, probably bought from a lab, probably dead. Have you ever stood over your own fake grave, seen the lie built just for you? They thought a crashed car and staged panic would be enough. They didn't expect someone to check, or for me to still be breathing. Back at the motel, I loaded the footage Rachel's team had pulled. Grainy security cam. Corner of a 24-hour store half a mile from the crash site. The timestamp 7 minutes after the 911 call. A figure appeared from the trees. Dark hoodie. Limping. They looked around nervous. Panicked. Then ran to a black SUV parked with its lights off. As they turned to open the door, the store's fluorescent sign lit their face. It was Ethan. Hair perfect, jaw clenched. The golden boy running from his own crime scene. He wiped the door handle before getting in. Classic amateur. Have you ever seen someone you once trusted caught in the act and still feel that split second of denial? For a moment, I wanted it to be someone else. Anyone else. But it wasn't. It was my brother, and now I had him on tape. I needed to confirm my alibi. One last time. Back in the motel, I accessed a secure satellite channel, used a buried credential string, one I never shared. I searched the CIA's internal logs. Panama, the date of the stage crash, my mission. Nothing. Every entry, every movement, every report gone. Scrubbed so clean you'd think I'd never served. Then the burner phone buzzed. Sam. His voice was different this time, low, tight. That delete order didn't come from Langley, he said. It was pushed through a back door, one that links to Vance's defense. I didn't breathe. Your father isn't just a contractor, he said. He has reach, dangerous reach. Have you ever felt your identity slip through your fingers while someone else held the scissors? They didn't just want me dead. They wanted me unprovable. And that made this a far more than personal. I needed access. Inside access. Someone buried deep in Vance's defense. Someone with reasons to doubt. Her name was Lily Sanders, junior archivist, quiet, precise. Her father had been an engineer there. Fired, discredited, dead 6 months later, heart attack, they said. But stories like mine, they find echoes. I sent one message. Untraceable, simple. They lied about your father. They're lying about more. I can prove it. Then I waited. Hours passed. No reply. The next morning, a secure email appeared. No name. No greeting. What do you need? That was it. But it was everything. Have you ever whispered into the dark, not expecting a voice to answer, and someone whispered back? She wasn't a hacker. Not a spy. But she had keys. And with Lily, I was about to unlock the door they thought would stay closed forever. Lily sent me two names. One stood out. Vincent Hale, lead auditor, declared dead in a car accident 5 years ago. But Rachel had doubts. One old tax file said otherwise. An anonymous property in Oregon, remote. Paid in cash, utilities under an alias. I drove all night. Cold air, forest roads, fog curled over the hills like warning. The cabin was hidden. Smoke from the chimney. Movement behind the curtains. He was alive. I waited until he stepped outside. Woodpile, hatchet in hand, gun on his hip. Vincent Hale, I called softly. I'm not with Vance. I'm Claire Monroe. They tried to kill me last week. He froze. Turned slowly, eyes narrowed, then after a long pause, inside. Now. The cabin was chaos. Papers, maps, handwritten notes, a war room for one. He poured black coffee, didn't sit, just said, they erased me, because I saw everything. He opened a metal lockbox, pulled out a small recorder, set it on the table. I planted this in Charles's private conference room, the day before my accident. He pressed play. Margaret's voice. The girl is the last loose end. Eliminate her. Quietly. Then Charles. We'll handle Ethan's legal issues the same way. No press. No trace. It played like a confession. Because it was. Have you ever heard the truth and felt it cut deeper than any lie? They called me unstable. But now I had voices. Their voices. And they were about to echo in court. Vincent didn't speak for a long time. Just watched me. Measured, wary, like a man who'd trusted once and paid. Finally, he exhaled. You want proof? I've been building it for 5 years. He showed me boxes, ledgers, emails, wire transfers to shell companies, private payments to silence engineers, bribes to foreign officials. This isn't just family drama, he said. This is national, multi-country. Weapons that failed in testing were still sold. People died. He handed me a list. Countries, deals, amounts, each line a body no one counted. My hands shook, but not from fear, from validation. Have you ever seen something so awful that it made your own pain feel small? They killed my name, he said, but not my memory. I looked at him, tired, angry, unbroken. We bring them down together, I said, and for the first time he nodded. The ghosts were ready to speak. Vincent's hands trembled as he placed the recorder on the table. Not from fear, from holding on to this truth for too long. He pressed play. First Margaret's voice, icy, precise. Put the hair clip in the glove box. No blood, no trauma. It will look like a minor accident. Then Charles, she panicked and ran. That's the story. And Ethan's situation in Mexico, we'll bury that too. Vincent paused. My death was scheduled the day after I recorded this, he said. They crashed my car. Swapped IDs. But I wasn't inside. He pulled out an old passport. Faded, real. The one that let him vanish. Have you ever heard your erasure discussed like a boardroom strategy? This wasn't just betrayal. It was logistics. Now I had names, dates, audio. They wanted silence. But I had their voices, and I was going to make the world listen. Back in the motel, I checked my secure inbox. One new message, no subject line. It was from Lily. She'd found what I asked for. 2 documents, both marked confidential, both sealed by Vance Legal. The first, Julian's arrest in Mexico, drug charges, assault, buried within 24 hours, no record in public systems. The second, the original unaltered version of the Vance family trust. My name, my share, still there. Before it vanished. She wrote just one sentence, I believe you. Have you ever felt a quiet voice break through walls louder than any scream? Lily had risked everything. Her job, her safety. But she did it anyway, because truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and when it does, you listen. I looked at the files, at the names, the numbers, the lies. We weren't just building a case, we were building their collapse. San Mateo Superior Court was full, packed with reporters, attorneys, and polished strangers pretending not to stare. Rachel stood beside me, calm, composed. Her presence said one thing, we're not here to beg, we're here to end it. Across the aisle sat my family, Margaret in white Chanel, flawless as always, Charles stiff as stone, Ethan scrolling his phone as if none of this mattered. Their lawyer, Arthur Delocroix, smiled like the ending was already written. He stood before the judge confident. Your Honor, this is a baseless attempt by a bitter woman to extort her family. He turned to the gallery. Claire Monroe faked a breakdown. This isn't justice. It's revenge. The judge didn't blink. Sit down, she said. Let Miss Kim speak. Have you ever watched power shift in a single breath? That moment, it wasn't just a trial. It was the first crack in the Vance Empire's mask. Rachel walked to the center. No notes, no hesitation. She spoke with a steady rhythm measured like a countdown. Your Honor, the defense claims Claire Monroe fled after a crash, that she staged her own disappearance. She turned to the screen behind her, clicked once. A document appeared, stamped, redacted, but clear where it mattered. A partially declassified CIA mission log, Rachel said, dated the same night of the alleged accident. She pointed to the timestamp. Agent Monroe was not in California. She was 3,000 miles away in Panama, on active assignment. A quiet ripple moved through the courtroom. Gasps. Pens froze mid-sentence. Then a door opened. A man entered in a dark suit, stern, unshaken. He introduced himself. Office of the CIA Inspector General. He verified the file. Line by line, date by date. Have you ever watched a lie collapse under its own weight? That day, it didn't matter who I was. What mattered was where I had been and who confirmed it. The judge leaned forward, eyes sharp. Verified by the CIA, she asked. The agent nodded once. Firm, final. Rachel didn't pause. She let the silence settle, then clicked again. Your Honor, one more piece of evidence, she said. An audio recording. She pressed play. Margaret's voice filled the room. Put the hair clip in the glove box. It's a personal touch. No blood, no trauma. Then Charles. Azai is yours. We'll say she panicked. Ran. We keep it clean. See. A gasp rippled across the gallery. The press leaned forward. Pen scratched faster. I looked at Margaret for the first time in my life, and she wasn't composed. Her eyes widened. Her hand clenched around her handbag. Delocroix jumped up. Objection. Inadmissible. Illegally obtained. The judge slammed her gavel. Objection overruled. This is a preliminary hearing. The court will hear it. Have you ever felt justice begin not with a verdict, but with a sound? This was that sound, and it was just the beginning. Rachel turned to the judge. Calm, steady, the prosecution calls its next witness, Mr. Vincent Hale. At first silence, then gasps. The courtroom doors open. Vincent stepped in. Suit clean, but worn, face pale, eyes clear. Charles stood up. His lips parted, but no words came, just disbelief. No, he muttered. It can't be. Vincent took the stand, raised his hand, swore in, then looked directly at Charles. Hello, Sterling, he said. It's been a while. The room froze. Journalists scribbled like fire. Ethan finally looked up from his phone. Vincent didn't blink. I was declared dead 5 years ago. By people in this room. Have you ever seen a lie walk back into the world with a pulse and a voice? He wasn't just alive. He was ready to speak, and what he carried was enough to bring it all down. Vincent sat tall in the witness chair. His voice didn't shake, not once. He told the court everything, how he discovered a hidden slush fund, hundreds of millions moved off books, bribes to foreign officials, payments to cover failed weapon tests, false reports signed by Charles Monroe himself. He named names, dates, accounts, showed copies of wire transfers, documents no one thought existed. They staged my death, he said, because I was going to expose them. And when Claire got too close, they did it again. Delocroix tried to interrupt. The judge silenced him. The press gallery lit up, phones buzzing, pens flying. Across the room, Margaret looked hollow. Charles ashen. Ethan suddenly very, very still. Have you ever watched power realize it's no longer protected? This wasn't drama. It wasn't family. It was criminal. And for the first time, they couldn't buy silence. Not anymore. When Vincent stepped down, the room was no longer tense. It was cracked open. The judge sat in silence for a beat, then spoke. Her voice was firm, measured like a final nail. Based on the evidence presented, this court finds sufficient cause to launch an immediate criminal investigation into Charles Monroe, Margaret Monroe, and Ethan Monroe. No one moved. She continued, charges include but are not limited to felony fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Margaret's jaw tensed, but she didn't speak, not a word, for once nothing to polish. Charles slumped back, like the weight of truth had finally found his shoulders. Ethan, he looked down, still, small. Have you ever witnessed the moment a legacy turns to ash? That gavel fell like thunder, not just on a family name, but on everything they built by burying people like me. And I wasn't buried. I was rising. Ethan was sentenced weeks later. 25 years, federal prison, no parole. The golden boy now just a number. I visited him once, glass between us. He looked smaller in orange, pale, hollow. He picked up the phone. Claire, he said, I'm sorry. I didn't flinch, didn't rage, just stared. No, Ethan, I said. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught. He looked down. No defense, just silence. You never saw me, I said. Only saw a threat, an inconvenience you needed gone. I stood up. No final words, no hug, no closure, just truth. Have you ever looked someone in the eyes and realized they were never family, only a role in your undoing? I walked away, and this time, I didn't look back. Charles Monroe never stood trial. 3 days after the hearing, he suffered a mild stroke. They moved him to a private care facility, ocean view, round-the-clock nurses, everything money could still buy. I visited once, not for closure, not for forgiveness, just to look. He sat by the window wrapped in a wool blanket staring at the sea. No movement, no words. I placed something on the table beside him, his old Zippo lighter, the one he used to carry everywhere. You had a choice, I said, voice soft, almost quiet. You could have been a father. You chose being a CEO instead. He didn't turn, didn't blink. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he just didn't care. Have you ever stood in front of someone who once held all the power and felt nothing? No anger, no fear, just distance. I left the room, left the lighter. He could keep the past. I had no use for it anymore. The mansion felt hollow. Curtains drawn, room silent. The air smelled of old perfume and something colder. Failure. Margaret was under house arrest. Ankle monitor, no staff, just mirrors and memories. She met me in the grand foyer, still in white, still trying to control the room with her presence. You, she hissed, voice raw with rage. You've ruined everything. You were always a curse on this family. I didn't raise my voice, didn't move. No, I said. I wasn't the curse. I was the consequence. Her eyes flared like she couldn't accept it, like she still believed the lie she'd built. You taught me sentiment is weakness, that only the strong survive. So I survived better than you ever did. Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone who tried to erase you and felt nothing but distance? I turned to leave. Her voice cracked behind me, but I didn't turn back. That house was never mine. It was just a cage I finally walked out of. 2 weeks later, I resigned from the CIA. No headlines, just one clean file closed quietly. Sam met me one last time in a diner off a quiet road in Virginia. He slid an envelope across the table. New name, new passport, new start. You've served this country well, he said. Now it's time to serve yourself. I thanked him, not with words, but with a look that said, you were the only one who saw me. Now I live by a frozen lake in Maine. Small cabin, wood stove, no noise. The silence here isn't cold, it's healing. I adopted a dog, a golden retriever with sad eyes. I named him Gable. A quiet tribute to the only person who ever showed me kindness when I was still just a girl with a duffel bag. Have you ever found peace in a place no one can steal? They tried to erase me, but I was never a ghost. I was a seed, and now finally I'm starting to bloom. If any part of this story echoed something inside you, a memory, a scar, a quiet strength, I'd love to know. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more stories about survival, truth, and becoming whole again, subscribe to the channel. There's more ahead, more voices, more light. You're not alone.